lecturer for her daughter's death. And now the management, the lecturer had to come out and say this is untrue and it is not right to link or to relate the death of this student to to academic activities, because according to him, the mother of the deceased has been threatening him before time. I listened to the voice recording that she sent to someone, maybe a friend or something, when she was complaining and crying seriously about the failure. And she said, in her words, she was complaining, how can one person be failing a course over and over again since how many years? And she also stated having an extra year and now they wanted to give her another extra year, and she said she's going to leave this certificate for them. She was just pouring out her grievance on that to the aspect we'd like to focus on.
Yeah, I think at this point I have to be very blunt, very well. Suicide is not the way out of every situation or any situation. When you face challenges, the first thing to do is to speak up. Look for one or visit them, hear their own point, they speak with you, and the matter will be looked into and dealt with from its root. But taking one's life because of a situation, first and foremost, you are not the giver of life. So how can you even take what that doesn't belong to you? No matter the situation, speak out. A problem shared with the right person is half solved. That's my take on this. So she didn't follow it. And this should also serve as a deterrent to others who are facing similar challenges, that they ought to speak out. Talk to the right person, seek expert advice, also meet a guidance counselor. That's why you have guidance counselors in the universities and secondary school. They speak with you and provide a solution. So what she has done should be condemned in its entirety.
And that's why sometimes when things like this happen, people would reach out and say, reach out to somebody. And then the people would always say, check up on a friend today and just find out how they are doing. You know, that person you probably haven't spoken to in a long time, because not everybody can really handle pressure. They might do the wrong things, the things they're actually not supposed to do at the end of the day. But let's look at this case, what actually happened. The lecturer has come out to say he doesn't think her death should be channeled or linked to academic activities and all that. But let's put all of that aside, because the school has not even said anything yet. Let's look at students generally who face cases like this in universities. Times when a lecturer will sit down and tell a student that you won't pass my course, for probably one reason or the other. I went through the comment section for this particular post that was made by a very popular blogger, and a lot of students were posting their experiences when they were in school about a particular lecturer, like I said, saying, oh, you won't pass this course, I will make sure you read. Probably for personal reasons, one thing or the other. What's your take on that?
That's why we have the authorities in the university. If a lecturer poses a threat to you as a student, you know how to escalate an issue. Either you get to your head of department, you go to your dean of faculty. You can also report to university senate. Worst case, you can even engage the services of a human rights lawyer. Get the services of human rights groups, and they know how to channel the matter. So once you're what you're onion, you know what you're doing. You can also ask for a receipt or a rewrite, and also let another lecturer in that same department assess you. Let another person assess you.
Sure. You know, I had a similar experience when I was in school. I remember having a missing script because in my department we were so much, right? And then a lot of us used to have that, and I had that particular problem, missing script. And do you know, at that point it was my 100 level or so. I did not even know that I could follow it. You know, I could go here, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what steps to take. Now, some students, like I said, some of them don't take those steps, probably because they're not even aware. But then I asked again, are there other reasons you feel students, instead of taking all of these steps and carrying out these processes that are available to them, why don't they do it?
First, we have students who are not willing to learn, students who are not willing to study. If you know yourself very well, because of fear of victimization, if you have this kind of challenge and you take it to the appropriate authority, the next person will be on his or her toes, because knowing very well that if they do same to you, you will also escalate. It's just that we have students who are not ready to learn, students who are not even ready to study. Once you challenge it, you get to the root cause. Other people will be on their toes.
What about more?
And I always tell people that the best place to train a child is the home. When a child misses that basics from the home, there's little or nothing the church, the school, and the larger society can do. If you instill that confidence in your child, let him or her know that the only way out of this is persistent search, persistent study. And by the time you study, you go for an exams, you sit and you write. If any person feels society will channel their energy to something positive than the upbringing of children.
And like you said, orientation should actually be made. Some students, like I said, are not even aware. And then look at the case of the lecturer saying that the mother has been threatening him even before the student's demise. It means that the mother was probably aware that the daughter has been carrying over this particular course. I believe if the mother knew that there were processes, there were procedures, there were some people that she needed to meet and write to, she probably would have carried out those processes, don't you think?
Of course, no lecturer wants his or her image to be dented by little, or they will always say little foxes that spoils the vine. So no lecturer wants his image to be dented. They will do everything humanly possible to ensure that they don't get on the wrong side of the news. So if a child knows what he or she is doing, you sit for an exam, and to the best of your knowledge, you do very well, and somebody decides to victimize you in terms of it, you can escalate it. That's why they have the head of department, they have the dean of faculty, they have the senate. You can even get up to governing council to pursue your matter even before taking it out to the conventional court. But these are the processes.
You talked about some they don't want to take it to the rightful authorities. Why do you think we have much cases like that in our society?
This case,
the parents instill those morals in their children, but then when the children go to school, there's this, people say there's this spirit that comes with being in the university, right? So when students go to school, that freedom, like you said, they tend to change. There have been cases like that.
That's the
what do you think? Where do you think the parents missed it?
That's the result of negative peer influence on children. One thing is to train a child, another thing is to follow up. At that point,
so you need to follow up.
You need to follow up. You don't just relax that you have done it. Then you need to check up on the child. No matter how secretive that child is, you can also back check. Place someone on him to monitor him or her without him even knowing. And at the end of the day, you'll be getting feedback. And once you get feedback like that, you discover that the child will even be surprised that, is my parents, are they monitoring me? How come they know everything I'm doing? So it's a two-way thing. You don't just do it, then you relax. No. There must still be follow-up, checking, and also balancing, so that at the end of the day, all the efforts of the parents will not be in vain. But children, first of all, once they get into that university environment, they tend to abuse that freedom. And that is the bane of most.
I'm about to ask you now. You talked about some kids being secretive and not being open to their parents. That means it will be very difficult for such parents, if they don't have anybody, like you have said, to monitor these children. It will be quite difficult for them to know who their children are and what they are doing. So how do you think they can balance it? Given the right discipline and all of that, and at the same time making them be able to be comfortable enough to open up to you as a parent.
You must balance everything. There's this saying that to catch a monkey, to behave like a monkey. If you must get the best out of your child, there are some time you need to come down to their level. Because whether I like it or not, a teacher was once a schoolboy. So at that point, you need to come down to their level. Let them see you more as a friend and not a parent. At that point, they can open up to you.
Do you do that only when you want them to open up to you?
No, but you must also use the stick and carrot approach.
So how do you balance both?
That's when I want them to open up to me. I come down to their level.
That's the only time you come down to their level, when you want them to open up?
When I want them to open up to me, when I want to find out certain things, and when I also want to get the best out of them. You must balance everything, also maximize the potential of the child. That's why at every point, you must carry out what they call the SWOT analysis: strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat of an individual. Once you are able to balance these 4 areas of your child, you will get the best out of your child.
Okay. For some time, the society believes, you know, balancing it, being that strict dad, and at the same time being her friend. I remember a viral video of a lady who came online and said that she has never seen, like, her dad is just a sponsor. It's just her sponsor. She doesn't have that father-daughter relationship with him. It's just when she needs money, she calls home, and then he sends money, and that's the relationship. That's all.
That's terrible, very terrible. And I can tell you for free that that child is a time bomb waiting to explode.
Why do you say so?
Why I say it's a time bomb waiting to explode, 50-50.
Okay.
That child can be a good person, turn out to be a good person, because the situation can also drive him or her to become a better person. And that same situation can also compel that child to see life from a different point of view. And if she gets into a wrong hand where people that are not supposed to speak to her tell her something negative, or on the contrary, it's a time bomb that is exploding already. As I say, it's a 50-50 thing. The situation, some people's situation actually drive them to become a better person. While situation also, when they talk to people whom they are not supposed to talk to.
Since you're a father or you're a dad, let me put it that way, I want to ask this question. Most of the times we hear boys or guys saying they don't have a good relationship with their father. We've had that several times from different, I've heard it from different guys. I know that sometimes ladies tend to have better relationship with their fathers, even though I don't know why that happens. But what I want to find out is, why is it that a lot of guys do not have a good relationship with their father? Why do you think that is?
Or bad. Nobody knows it all.
Sure.
Nobody is an embodiment of knowledge. Nobody has monopoly of knowledge. That you're a father doesn't mean that everything you do is right. So that point, that's where most people fell out with their fathers, seeing their fathers in a very wrong light.
Even with that camp commandant character, we still have the ladies closer to their dads.
Yes.
Why are they not running away like the guys?
You know, men generally, they are, you have that soft spot.
So men should start building that soft spot for their sons too, don't you think?
You know, there's this notion that then, that if you're too soft to your child, that you will amount to nothing. Or yes, or
but it's not there again.
It's not there. You must live in an era, you must live in an era where things are going. Don't too their so-called Gen Z world fault.
We'll probably have a whole show to discuss the Gen Z world.
Yes.
Okay, let's look at this story now. The Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security on Thursday issued an alert near the College of Arabic and Islamic Legal Studies at Dewale in Lore, in Kwara State. It said a report from the Kwara State Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development stated that mortality in herd occurred at the market on April 20, 2024, adding that the outcome of the investigation revealed that animals had grazed on the forage that was fumigated with organophosphate chemical before the incident. And the report further stated that clinical signs observed were hypersalivation, weakness, and recumbency. On noticing this, the herders quickly decided to slaughter 7 of the very weakly cows, affected animals, yes, now, for public consumption. And this had public health risk, and the consequences may be very severe in the food chain. Now, the FMAF said this in a statement that was issued in Abuja. It, however, stated that there is a rapid response team in every state of the Federation made up of the Federal Epidemiology Officer, State Director, Veterinary Services, and State Epidemiology Officer, who have been adequately trained by the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security for emergencies such as this. They're trying to tell you that, hey, we have
What I say is man's inhumanity to man. You know that this is not fit for human consumption. Yet, because of some selfish benefits, you went at the grazing. If we have grazing reserves, this kind of thing will not happen. Because, Yes, once if we have grazing reserves, we know that this area is purely reserved for grazing. So you cannot go and consume what has been fumigated. Because we don't have grazing reserve, they allow the cows to roam the streets. This kind of thing is something that should be nipped in the bud.
We talked about looking at it holistically. There are various aspects to this story. There's the aspect of the man's inhumanity to man, like you have stated. There's also another aspect of these people who are these herders now. Are they really aware that I know they are aware that their cows or their animals are sick and, you know, dying already, but are they aware that this thing can be harmful to the bodies of human beings?
Of course, they should know.
They should know.
Yes, that whatever affects...
But most of them are not learned. That's why I'm asking.
It's just wickedness because, one, they don't want to lose their investment in those cattle. So they need to sell it off and see how they can recoup their money, which is not supposed to be so. They should look at the bigger picture. And what's the bigger picture? What harm the consumption of this would do to man.
These cases of these animals getting into people's farms and, you know, destroying their crops has also been one of the problems that we have in Nigeria. First of all, with insecurity, and then secondly, with our products. People we're more of a consuming nation than a producing nation. Oh, what's wrong with our agriculture? Agriculture can bring so much money to Nigeria. But when you look at agriculture and look at the problems with agriculture, this is one of them. So what's your take on that, and how do you think we can solve this problem?
First, the best way to solve this is establishment of grazing reserve and the ban of open grazing. Once we have grazing reserve, ban open grazing, this is already solved.
This is not even the first time we're talking about banning open grazing, remember?
Yes.
So what happened?
You know, the problem of Nigeria has always been not policy formulation, but our greatest challenge is implementation of the formulated policies. We lack the political will to implement all the very lofty and wonderful policies that has been formulated, but how do we implement?
What will it take to implement this particular policy we're talking about that is now a problem to be implemented?
Political will. When I say political will, first you must be able to take the bull by the horn. Once you take the bull by the horn, that's the only way to tame the bull.
So why are we not taking the bull by the horn if it's that easy?
Because they feel that the bull is quite aggressive and there are certain interests that will be offended. They want to offend any person.
But on both sides, on both ends, there are interests and there are people who will be offended.
That's why I say you need to take the bull by the horn. Face the challenges squarely, no matter whose ox is God, no matter who is offended, or what you just need to do is the overall interest of the public. There are people who are sabotaging this. All which, like I said, they just need the political will to implement policies.
But do they really think it is wrong? Because that's the first thing we need to look at now. I remember when we were talking about open grazing and the whole discussion was out there. There were talks about having certain lands in certain states and having, you know, just secluded for these herders. Now, some people believed that was wrong, but other people believed there was actually absolutely nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with having grazing reserve. There is absolutely nothing wrong with it. It will also reduce the tension between herders and farmers.
You think so?
To a great...
How?
Nobody farms on a grazing reserves. We know that this land is specifically or exclusively reserved for animal grazing.
You're talking about this grazing reserve now being done or open in all the states' capital? Or all the states
in all the states,
Nigeria?
In all the states in Nigeria.
For the herders in that state,
yes,
or herders from other states coming in?
Herders in that state, first and foremost. Then if you're on transit, you could also stop by there.
Don't you see that being abused later? Because that was the fear of a lot of state governors at that time.
Yes, why they are afraid, given the fact that, one, they could also form settlement.
Yes,
and before you
that's
know,
one big fear.
Yes. I'm sure that's the major challenge of having grazing reserve, because they might also come there and constitute security challenges. But if you have grazing reserve. And in all those areas where you have grazing reserve, there are military formations around that area. Our security services, Directorate of Military Intelligence and all that, they carry out proper information gathering. Like I always tell people, the best way to fight crime is not, or to prevent crime is not crime fighting, is information gathering. By the time you gather information, you nip everything in the bud.
So what is the guarantee that it will be different this time? What has our information gathering been like all this while?
First is to identify flashpoints. When you identify flashpoint, the next thing is to identify potential threats. By the time you identify potential threats, you know how to checkmate them. By the time you checkmate them, they can't carry out any action. If you know that this is a threat and you checkmate it, you keep it permanently subjected to how you want it to be. But by the time you allow them, that's when they become an issue, not just to themselves, but to also the larger society.
Okay, so aside identifying threats and all of that, what else should be done by the security operatives if this is allowed? We have insecurity cases in Nigeria, right?
Yes.
Which our security operatives are aware of. And a lot of times we have been told that steps are being taken, oh, this is what we are doing, we are investigating this, we are investigating that. But it has not put an end to insecurity in the country. So if this is something that the state governors fear that would happen if open grazing was allowed in all of these places or all of these states, or what should the security do differently this time, and what is our guarantee? What is the guarantee that this time it will be different?
Well, I tell people, if you keep doing the same thing the same way and expecting a different result, it's madness. So if you want a different result, there must be a change of approach. There must be a change in mode of operation. So all we need to advocate for is to have a change of operation by the military. But you know one thing, when it comes to military tactics and all, these are things that are not in public domain. So these are things that we cannot even sit here and discuss military tactics or security tactics. It should be left for them to come up with the best way for it. But all we just need to do is that when you have these grazing reserves, you should also have military formation around that area to checkmate them. But how they checkmate them should be left for the military and the security, security operatives, and not for us here.
All right, let's take a very short time out, and when we return, the show conversation continues. Please stay with us.
Corruption not in my country.
Driver, why you just say jack us up and down like this now?
I hope nobody carry belle.
Why you ask? Oh,
Because this road where they see, so you no guarantee safe delivery. Oh.
We just dey vote for government, but we not get good governance.
stop.
Road so e no dey, light o usai, the infrastructure nko e come turn to be forbidden fruit for the city.
Corruption, spoil everything. Hello?
Hello, madam. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Mrs. Ayeni. I am calling from the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs.
Okay. Okay, I've been expecting your call.
Madam, remove this your phone from loudspeaker.
No, that no verse. Now my phone be like that. Hello.
A copy of your invoice for computers, printers, and laptops.
Yes. Are you working on them now?
Ma, the prices you quoted are way too high now.
Madam, sorry.
For 600,000 naira.
Hello.
Now my body network there.
I can't hear your network is bad.
Madam, we can continue.
Hello, I can't hear you. We call you back.
Their behavior no.
In our country, you suppose do things differently. Make Nigeria for better.
Corruption not in my country.
This message is brought to you by the Atn Sunday Foundation, the MacArthur Foundation,
and with broadcast support from Atlantic Television Network.
Welcome back. Straight to the next story. The House of Representatives Committee on the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, has frowned at the failure of NAFDAC's Director General, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, to implement its resolution on sachet alcohol. The House said the action of NAFDAC management was disrespectful to the Parliament, as the Vice Chairman of the committee, Uchenna Okonkwo, said at a news conference on Friday in Abuja that the agency was duly served with the resolution. The agency had failed to comply with the directives 2 months after it was passed. If this display of impunity is allowed to go slated directives, he said. According to reports, the House had on March 21 adopted a motion sequel to the consideration of the Committee on NAFDAC to suspend the ban imposed by the agency on sachet alcohol and less than 200 ml PET bottle. The House directed that the ban be lifted because of the wrong timing and unstable state of the economy, citing unemployment, inflation, and paucity of forex as the reason for that ban to be lifted. But 2 months now, it hasn't been lifted, and they are saying this is disrespectful, and if we allow this to continue, it will keep happening. What's your take on this story?
First, this sachet alcohol is not that carrying out the ban, because virtually everywhere I go, I still see them.
And that's what they're complaining about.
Yes, I still see them. It's being sold. And the people, next question, who are the people that consumes this? If you know the people who consume them, then you know the potential threat they face to if they are consumed. Because I know most of these things are sold in the park, sold by the roadside, where children, underage children, who easily access them, where motorists could also take it. And if you look at it from the larger perspective, it's not a good one at all. Things like this should be sold in exclusive area. it should be sold in areas where for you to access them, you must be thoroughly screened before you go into such places. It shouldn't be an all-comers affair where you just walk in, yeah, give me one. It's not done like that in StarTimes. It's never done like that. That's the only way it could be controlled. But to say outright ban, no. In the sense that the economy, everybody knows what this will do to the economy. If you ban this, the people that produces it, it will also affect their overall income. So all they just need to do is to give directives on how it should be sold, when it should be sold, and whom it should be sold to. Like where they have the liquor license in StarTimes, they have the off working hour and off-hour liquor license. If you want to be selling liquor in the daytime, your license should be higher, your licensing fee. Then if you want to sell off-hour, your licensing fee should be a bit low. If you want to sell it in open place, these are just part of the things they should do, so that at the end of the day, you that wants to go into that business, you consciously go into it, having fulfilled the regulation. But to say outright ban, no. I'm of the opinion that it shouldn't be banned outrightly. Rather, there should be some kind of technicalities. When I say technicalities, there should be liquor license. Then they also reduce the places they sell it, how they sell it, and when they sell it.
And who they sell it
and
to.
who they sell to.
Sometimes kids are asked to buy these things for adults.
It shouldn't be done like that. Like when we're growing up, at some point, you see elderly ones send children to go and buy me cigarettes.
True. It still happens.
And before you know, that child at an early age starts seeing cigarettes. And the elder ones are sent can also light it in front of them, and they see it as a way of life. I know children, they learn faster with what they see.
Very fast.
Not just what they hear. On this, then we will get it right. If you want to go into the sale of these things, you have to pay liquor license. So now you choose whether to go into the business or not. By the time they start enforcing on that licensing, it will also reduce the sale of it before they even talk of where they sell it. When you can ban sales of these things in motor parks. You ban it in motor parks. You ban it in open places, shops near schools. You ban it in shop near. All you just need to do, put a lot of technicalities. Then by the time they start the enforcement, everything will fall in place.
Do you see that being something that we can do right now?
Of course, if we have the political will, we should.
What is wrong with our political will? You keep mentioning that.
The political will is the willpower, not mind, as in not, how would I put it? Being ready to offend people. Because if you live a life where, in the course of doing the right thing, you are afraid of offending people, you have already compromised. So that's why I call it it is termed political will. You must have that willpower to go full throttle, so that at the end of the day, you are not afraid of offending any person, so long as what you're doing is in the overall interest
of the people,
of the larger society.
But if you are taking up a political position or a leadership position, you already know that you will offend one person or the other. So a lot of the times, you're not the only one who keeps saying our political, we don't have the political will, oh, we don't have the political will to handle this. And you ask, okay, why is this happening? So because we don't have the political will to handle that. And you're asking questions like, but you knew what it would take. You knew what you were signing up for before you took the leadership position, you decided to run.
Apart from the fact that as a politician, theirs is to formulate policies. But who are the ones who implement those policies? These are another question. Who are the people that go out for the enforcement to make sure that these laws are being followed to the letter? So it's a complex problem.
So you're taking who is supposed to be in charge of the checks and the overall checks and balances, right?
Yes.
So what's wrong with that?
That's the head.
Yes.
But if the head is also willing to work, every other person will key in.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Because if something is not working, the person that you will hold responsible in your company, if something is not working in a particular department, who do you hold responsible?
First is the head.
Exactly. So that's the big question now.
But do you know that the head too can also be sabotaged by people beneath?
Okay.
That's the head could be sabotaged just because they want the head to go. they could also sabotage the head, because as a head, you cannot be everywhere at the same time.
Regulation for some of these products or some of these things happening in Nigeria is very important. But when we talk about regulation, we then say, oh, it's SENA clients, it's done that way. So why can't we do it that way?
That's why, you see,
in our own country?
When I talk of the regulation, there should be some form of things that should be added into it. Tell people, okay, you want to sell it, no problem. You must have a liquor license. So by the time you check how much it takes to get that liquor license for you to sell, it's okay, you can sell here by so time, but this is how much you're going to pay to the government in form of liquor license. If you want to sell in bar, outside, I mean inside bar where people will come, there you screen your customers. You say, okay, if you're less than 18, you cannot enter. You know that people who are coming to consume are people who are already of age.
At least that one we know it's possible. We've seen it in bars.
And also, you tell the customers to drink responsibly.
You tell them to drink responsibly. Are you telling them not to buy drinks?
No.
These people want to sell drinks. That's what they're there for.
You also encourage them to drink responsibly.
How do you encourage them? By just telling them and then selling a whole crate to them on the table?
No. Why I say you also encourage people to drink responsibly? You also do advocacy. Yeah, of course.
You know, it's very funny. Like, you have these people coming to your bar.
No, there's this parable in my place that because your mother killed goat or your mother's goat died at night, doesn't mean that the next morning you kill yourself with pepper soup.
But, okay, you carry out advocacy
yes.
for your customers, right?
Not just customers. The government should carry out.
The government has been doing that.
They should do more.
They should do more.
Yes.
What should they do differently? I mean, we've been seeing adverts on TV, radio, responsibly, or not for people under the age of, you know, we've been seeing all of those regulations.
A lot still needs to be done because whether I like it or not, advocacy costs money. It costs money because you must reach out to the people. And how do you reach out to the people? Either through electronic and print media, and today that the social media has become a very strong tool.
So let's look at reps now giving the directive and NAFDAC not keeping to it, as just like they have stated 2 months down the line.
For me, the reps, what they should do is talking of how to put checks in it and not telling NAFDAC that they should not implement it. Tell people abroad or SENA claims they have liquor licenses. You don't sell alcohol without that liquor permit. You don't. And alcohols mainly are being sold in pubs. So for you to drink, you must go to a pub.
That means you actually feel like NAFDAC has not carried out this directive because they do not like the directive, or they are not comfortable with it, or...
They are not comfortable with it.
That's what I feel.
Yes.
Okay.
They are not otherwise, if you check NAFDAC, their own excuses or their reasons, it's something that is justifiable. Why I say so, alcohol has a lot of negative effects. If you look at even security-wise, because some people under the influence of alcohol, they could also carry out some things they are not supposed to do. So alcohol itself is something that has a lot of rippling effect.
But this is not the only alcoholic content we have available in Nigeria. So why the sachet alcohol?
The sachet alcohol is handy, it's cheap, and it's affordable. That's the truth. It's handy, you could conceal it. You could also afford it because it's relatively cheap. So there should be some form of control.
All right, more should be done, like our guest has recommended. Let's look at the next story now. Ola Olukoyede, chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, has called on religious leaders in Nigeria to play a more active role in fighting corruption and cybercrime. Mr. Okoyede made the call on Thursday in Abuja at the Nigeria Inter-Religious Council meeting titled The Role of Religious Leaders in Combating Corruption and Cybercrime. Mr. Olukoyede noted the crucial role religious leaders play in shaping the moral fabric of society and urged them to use their influence to promote integrity and transparency. He also charged religious leaders not to ignore decadent behaviors and ethical rot amongst the flocks in a bid to guarantee the steady flow of milk from the congregants. The FCC boss said the relevance of the clergy as a moral authority is being questioned by a number of practices. Amongst these is the emphasis on prosperity rather than righteousness. This has created the impression that instant wealth, irrespective of how it was gotten, is approved by God. The REC is a voluntary association with 50 members, 25 Christians, 25 Muslims, formed by representatives of Nigeria's two principal religions, Christianity and Islam. Yes, your thoughts on this story now?
Well, talking about this, I can tell you for free that this is my constituency. Why I say it's my constituency, I am a practicing Christian. I always tell people, I'm a practicing Christian that believes in the tenets of Christianity. But if you look at it again, I think they have lost sense of direction. They have lost, and what the EFCC chairman said is not far from the truth. It's
Who has lost sense of direction now?
Well, I mean lost sense of direction.
So what do you mean has lost sense
of direction? The Christendom.
Okay.
Because they now tend to celebrate wealth. Unlike in the 70s, 80s, where they preached more of holiness and sanctification, the rate of moral decadence was in check. But today, where everything is centered around Christianity, and I can tell you with about prosperity, I can tell you for free, it beats my heart bleeds that today the church religion celebrates the rich, not minding the source of the wealth.
Is it a thing of religion or it's a thing of the society?
It's...
Why are we channeling it down to religion now?
The religion is supposed to be the opium of the society. It's supposed to be the mopol, that's the mobile police. It's supposed to be where, in fact, it's supposed to be the citadel of uprightness. And if you look at someone, you know that this person is not living right. It's not doing the right thing. You should be able to speak up. But today, they have lost sense of direction in the sense that they now celebrate wealth and prosperity.
So wealth should not be celebrated?
Bible.
Okay, remember you talked about in the past, religion in the past now. Christian brothers were seen as, that's in the past by the society, were seen as people who didn't have money. You know, people who were not rich enough. And so they just decided to settle for religion. That used to be the idea. If a skit maker wants to produce a skit about Christian brothers in the past, have you looked at it? There's this ideology that the society had. So now, if they are talking about prosperity and preaching about making money in the church, do you think there's anything wrong with that? Now Christians are being portrayed better, in better light.
Why I said so? If your source of wealth is verifiable, is genuine, there's nothing wrong with it.
How many pastors can verify the source of wealth of all their members? Some of these churches are very large.
There's one thing I always tell people. You can tell a blind man that the soup he or she is eating does not have oil, while we have animal oil, plant oil, and vegetable oil. But you cannot tell that same blind man that soup does not have salt or pepper, because you do not need the eyes to see pepper and salt. You use your tongue and your taste bud.
Okay, it's a parable show.
To show.
Now, okay.
So if you see somebody, and this person, the kind of wealth he or she is flaunting, and you do a background check, he doesn't have a verifiable source of income, that wealth is questionable.
The pastors should start doing background check on their members?
The pastors might sit in the office, but there are people who send names of such people to the pastors. So those same people should be able to do the background check.
But was it done like that in the past? We used to have investigative teams now, investigating the members or the new members of the churches?
Well, that's why I say, because I don't want to use the word the Holy Spirit. Because I wonder if some of them, they still hear spiritually or they still see spiritually. So they should be able now to use their own physical eyes. Unlike in the past, they will tell you the Holy Spirit revealed to me.
So these investigations or these revelations were there in the past. When there's a new member, you start probing to find out what this person does.
Not that you probe what the person does, but you fill your membership this first-timer form.
Do you think anybody would write a fraudulent occupation in first-timers form?
That's why it calls for visitation. Those days they do visitation. They do reach out or outreach where they visit new members. Visit with them, you are welcome. They have home cells. And with that, you can verify all this. But today, you see a child that is even in the university, some just finished secondary school. You see what they are doing.
What are they doing?
You know.
I don't know what you're talking about. Let's not forget that. Look, the way people make now, it's easier to make money. People believe it's easier to make money now than it was in the past.
Yes, it's easy.
Now you can sit at home and make a lot of money.
If it's verifiable, if it's genuine, no problem, it should be celebrated. But not somebody who engages in antisocial vices. Because I don't even want to call it criminality anymore. Because I'm not a judge. But you look at this one now from the normal point of view, these are antisocial vices. You know they do so many antisocial things to make money these days, and they are celebrated. You see somebody who doesn't have a meaningful source of income. Maybe he happened to get one political office, one appointment, and at the end of the day, he's celebrated. You see some people, they are awarded contracts, and fine, you are awarded contracts. You are paid upfront, and you abscond from sight. Is that not criminality?
But do you think any of these pastors will see this happening and just, like, a pastor would know that this person's source of income is wrong and he would still promote and encourage? So don't you think they should cut the pastors some kind of slack?
The religious body.
The religious body now. I don't know why I keep referring to
the
pastors.
religious body, they have failed in their own responsibility. Some of them.
Okay.
If not 50, 60%, they have failed. Why I say so? We should be able to sit here and tell ourselves the truth. Okay. Why I say we should tell ourselves the truth? You know that this is wrong. But because you don't want to offend any person, you don't want to be quoted, you say it doesn't concern me. So at that point, people should be able to speak. The church or religion is supposed to be the opium of the society. It's supposed to be like the checkmate. At least if the court, pending when the court will conclude, at least the religious body with their spiritual, they should be able to say this is wrong.